Every day, millions of people scroll through endless streams of digital noise, searching for clarity, direction, and truth in a chaotic world. But the most profound blueprints for navigating human life, culture, and leadership weren't written by modern influencers or shifting societal trends. They were recorded thousands of years ago in the pages of the Holy Bible. Welcome to Scroll to Soul. We don't just read the text. We decode the real-world execution strategy for the modern era. If you are ready to stop being a passive observer and start building a life rooted in deep wisdom and intentional action, you are in the right place. You are now among the practitioners. Let's unlock today's blueprint. When we think about building a lasting legacy, we must eventually talk about the acquisition and management of physical real estate. Throughout history, land has remained the ultimate asset class. It serves as the physical anchor for families, businesses, and entire nations. In the corporate world, companies transition from high-growth phases to operational stabilization, and in the same way, the ancient nation of Israel had to transition from a decade of active warfare and nomadic migration to permanent asset distribution and property ownership. This monumental shift from military conquest to structured real estate allocation is recorded in the 14th chapter of the book of Joshua. This chapter provides a timeless masterclass in property rights, title claims, and the underwriting of high-risk, high-reward assets. Before we look at individual claims, we must understand the macro system used to distribute the land. The text opens by explaining that the inheritance of the 9.5 tribes was decided by casting lots, exactly as the Creator had commanded through Moses. This was a highly structured, objective distribution method designed to eliminate tribal jealousy, corruption, and nepotism. The distribution was overseen by a centralized committee consisting of Eleazar the priest, Joshua the commander, and the heads of the clans. This corporate structure ensured that every transaction was validated by spiritual, military, and civil authorities. Casting lots under official supervision established undisputed, legally binding borders for each tribe. This systematic process eliminated favoritism or administrative bias. If Joshua had assigned the best lands to his friends or influential leaders, it would have created immediate civil unrest. The objective method established absolute confidence in the fairness of the boundaries. For the modern practitioner, this highlights the necessity of systemic objectivity and clear governance in any asset distribution. When you are dividing equity in a business, distributing family inheritance, or allocating corporate resources, you cannot rely on subjective feelings or handshake agreements. You must establish structured, transparent, and legally binding systems that protect the property rights of everyone involved. Without a clear and mutually agreed-upon allocation framework, your organization will eventually succumb to internal disputes and operational paralysis. Historically, nomadic groups remain vulnerable because they lack a fixed geographical defense. Without land, you have no permanent legal jurisdiction, no baseline of long-term security, and no physical asset that can compound in value. Partitioning the territory established a sovereign infrastructure. They transformed a mobile nation of conquerors into a stable society of property owners. You must make a similar choice. You cannot remain in a nomadic state of constant warfare, jumping from one project to another without ever building a permanent base of operations. While the general land distribution was happening, Caleb stepped forward from the tribe of Judah to present his personal property claim to Joshua at Gilgal. Caleb did not approach the leadership with a casual request. He arrived with a documented, historically backed title claim. He reminded Joshua of the specific promise made by Moses, the former leader of the nation, 45 years earlier in Kadesh Barnea. Caleb was one of the original 12 spies sent to evaluate Canaan. While 10 of the spies returned with a toxic, fear-driven report, Caleb and Joshua returned with an objective, faith-filled assessment. Because of Caleb's loyalty and strategic courage, Moses had sworn a solemn oath, promising him that the land on which his feet had walked would be his permanent inheritance forever. Caleb carried this verbal title deed in his heart for 45 years. He watched an entire generation pass away, survived decades of desert wandering, and fought through active military campaigns, keeping his focus locked on his future real estate asset. This represents the power of historic equity and long-term vision. In your professional journey, you will experience seasons of quiet waiting, routine operations, and intense struggle. During these periods, the average person loses focus and settles for short-term comfort. But a true practitioner understands that the most valuable assets in life require decades of patient cultivation. You must protect your historic claims, honor your commitments, and keep your eyes on the ultimate prize. When the moment of allocation arrives, You must step forward, present your track record of execution, and claim the equity you have earned. What makes Caleb's request truly extraordinary is the specific geographic territory he claimed. He did not ask for an easy, pre-cleared piece of flat land. At 85 years of age, Caleb stepped forward and said, "Give me this hill country that the Creator promised me on that day." You yourself heard then that the Anakites were there, and their cities were large and fortified. The Anakites were the legendary giants who had terrified the original spies. Hebron, the hill country Caleb claimed, was a highly fortified mountain stronghold defended by the most formidable warriors. It was the highest risk, most operationally difficult asset on the map. Yet, Caleb actively chose it, declaring that he would drive them out and occupy the land. At an age when most people are focused on passive retirement, Caleb was actively underwriting a high-risk, high-reward development project. He understood that Hebron was a strategic asset, providing natural geographic defense and deep historic significance. By conquering this specific stronghold, he was securing a defensible base of operations that would protect his family from future conflicts. He did not let the intimidating presence of the giants or the massive stone walls cloud his calculation, knowing that the level of difficulty was proportional to the value of the ultimate security it provided. This teaches us a profound lesson in asset valuation. In business, the assets that carry the highest initial barriers to entry and the most significant operational challenges often yield the most massive, permanent rewards. When you avoid hard challenges, you enter highly congested markets where margins are thin. But when you possess the courage to target the hill country, you capture unique, high-value territory that others are too terrified to touch. You must evaluate opportunities by the long-term defensive moat they provide once you secure them. Hearing these words, Joshua recognized the absolute validity of Caleb's claim and the elite quality of his execution capacity. The text records that Joshua blessed Caleb and gave him Hebron as his permanent inheritance. Because Caleb followed the Creator wholeheartedly, Hebron became his personal property, and the city's name was changed from Kiriath Arba, which was named after the greatest of the Anakites, to Hebron. After this systematic allocation was finalized, the land finally had rest from war. Caleb did not just win a temporary battle. He secured a permanent, legally recognized title deed that transferred directly to his descendants. He converted his 45 years of loyalty, his physical courage, and his strategic vision into a tangible, permanent land asset that protected and anchored his family for generations. He proved that when you combine absolute internal alignment with relentless execution, you can conquer the giants of any industry and establish a legacy that cannot be easily shaken. Your active conquests must eventually solidify into passive preservation, or your effort will be lost to time. This is the ultimate blueprint for every practitioner. You must transition your life from active warfare and temporary, chaotic chasing to structured asset accumulation and permanent property rights. Stop settling for transient cash flow and temporary status. Focus your energy on acquiring assets that offer long-term defensive value, clear legal protection, and generational durability. Real estate is not just about physical land. It represents the ultimate validation of your active labor, converting your temporary energy into a permanent anchor. Build your systems, secure your title deeds, and establish your legacy in the hill country. Knowledge without application is just intellectual entertainment. A life of true impact is built entirely through execution. And that brings us to today's practitioner challenge. Look at your own path, your decisions, and your interactions this week. Identify the single biggest area where passive habits are holding you back, and actively apply the exact scriptural framework we unpacked today. Drop a comment below with the word applied once you've put it into action. Let the community know you are executing, not just listening. We, the practitioners, offer value. Subscribe, ring the bell, share the legacy. In our next video, we are diving into another foundational principle. Until then, keep executing.